Park at Madison Station Blvd here. We're really glad to have all you and excited to present some information here. One sec. There we go. So before we get started, I would like to introduce slides at work. There we go. Brandy from 50 Forward to just tell us a little bit about our host venue here.
A little shorter. Well, good morning. For those of you that are coming back again, welcome back. And for those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. I'm the center director here at 50 Forward Madison Station. We are one of 7 lifelong learning centers, community centers for adults older than 50. We do a lot of active type programming here and across the city. So we have 5 in Davidson County, 2 in Williamson County. We also have supportive care services to help people age in place and also find resources to, essential services that you need when you're aging. And then we also have a volunteer engagement program that helps older adults continue to be active in that way of service. And so if you'd like to learn more about 50 Forward, I'm around afterwards. The building is actually open if you'd like to take a tour. So if it's for you or someone that you know, I can share a little bit more about that. Again, we're really excited to be hosting this meeting today. We have a front row seat to all the action that is currently happening. And we've really enjoyed it. And some of you may know this story, but early on, Nancy was sharing about all of the things that are going to be happening with the boulevard, with the barn, with, next door here at Madison Town Center. And I was like, wow, we're going to be surrounded here. And she's like, think of it as a hug. And I really, truly feel like that is what's happening here. It's very exciting for Madison. And I think that this next phase of a park is a tremendous, it's like a bear hug at that point. So thanks again for coming today. And just so you know, the restrooms, very important. If you go to the back here and through the doors, if you need them, and if you need anything else, let me know. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Brandy. Next up, I would like to introduce Councilmember VanReece to tell us a little bit about this project.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for spending some of your Saturday morning with us, either here or online. I really appreciate your attention to all the things happening and what so many of us for over a decade have called really the center, the heartbeat of Madison. I send greetings from Councilmember Hancock. She's unfortunately unable to attend today. Her son has a soccer tournament, but she asked me to make sure and send greetings and to indicate her support to what it is we're doing. I also want to acknowledge Councilmember Emily Benedict is with us here today from District 7. So this entire project, as Brandy has said, is something that just because I'm lucky enough to be having it sit in District 8 as we know it now, it's something for all of us in the surrounding area. And you'll learn in this presentation just how many households it does affect. A little bit of update on the road because a lot of people are very interested in kind of what's happening. And I appreciate your patience, particularly the hundreds of members of 50 Forward who have tried to figure out a way how to get here when it's open every day. And we are very excited about indicating that it is on schedule. I encourage all of the Madisonians to save the date for the first Saturday in June. That's June the 4th. It is, we've kind of put a flag in that date because the folks over at Amqui Station will be hosting, along with Good Neighbor Festivals, a Tennessee Wine Festival. And the folks at the Madison Rivergate Area Chamber of Commerce will be hosting a cornhole tournament on that Saturday. So since so much activity will be happening, we're actually going to, at the end of those events, open the road officially on June the 4th. And when I say the road, I'm talking about phase 1. So you'll still see, we still got a lot of traffic lights work to do at Gallatin Pike, still have a lot of plantings to do. But by that first weekend in June, everything should be green and just beautiful. And that will be the official opening of phase 1. Phase 2 is on schedule to open in the autumn. So we'll have another grand opening at the end of the year to celebrate. So that's what's happening on the road. So I wanted to make sure that you guys knew that that was on schedule. You're going to be hearing today about the park at Madison Station Boulevard, because that's what we have to call it, because that's where it's located. But several years ago, I think now almost 4 years ago, we had a discussion with the Sturdivant family, and they have agreed that it would be appropriate for me to ask the Parks Board, when this park is officially created, to name it the Kitty Wells and Johnny Wright Park. And so in my head, it's always been, that's the name of it. But so we're very excited about establishing additional heritage in the naming of the park, and making sure that any of the art that's around it, including talking with the Arts Commission about sculpture in the middle of the roundabout and the different art concepts that you'll see, that it's surrounded by the creative class and all of its types and iterations as we see this vision come alive. So at a previous meeting, we had folks from the library here, and they're very excited about the idea that the activation of a park will also activate the library even more. All libraries across the country are working really hard to make sure that people still come into the library again. They kind of got out of the habit for COVID. I'm trying to, it's like, you know, I can just order a book online, or I can just do different things, but there's so many activities inside the library that are so beautiful. And we've invested so much to make sure that this Madison Library was updated, and it's a beautiful place. And she's more than happy to invite folks to use the restrooms over there during the park and kind of activate it. So I send greetings from the Nashville Public Library as well in that regard. So with that, I think there's only one other thing that I wanted to say, because I don't see him here today, but Scott Perry from the Memorial Foundation gave a very generous grant to, I think it was $50,000 grant, $40,000 grant, and the Parks Foundation, Nashville Parks Foundation, the two of them seeing the benefit of activating the vision that the community wanted, and then closing the loop with the Civic Design Center with Nashville Parks to be able to hire somebody as incredibly talented as the HDLA team to put this process together at a pace that would be in line with the road, right? Because if Madison's done something every single time, we have these great ideas, and then about a decade later, we see it happen, right? I am not in a position to wait for this park. And so all roads, if you will, are pointing to this park. The way that happens is it's been in the capital improvement budget for several years. When it was originally in the budget, it received the most points and the #1 most important thing to do from Councilmember Pridemore, myself, and Pardue. And then now 4 years later, it is now, I think, number 5 or 6, 4 on the list of the capital improvement budget priority list for the Nashville Council. That means that what happens is that all council members get 100 points to say, this is what's important to us in the CIB. Please, Mr. Mayor, pay attention to these items. I pledged and gave all 100 of my points to this project. I want to publicly thank Councilmember Benedict for giving 15 points from District 7 to this project. And that is what put us over 100, which really gets the attention of the mayor's office. So we're moving this along, and we're very excited about it. And I think I've mentioned everybody I need to. And with that, I'll pass it over, and you guys can get a look at what you guys have already designed. Thanks.
Thank you, Nancy. And just before we get into some of the little bit of history in the community engagement process, I'd like to invite Tim Nate from Parks to talk a little bit about Plan to Play.
Thank you, Eric. And thanks to all of you who are here today and those of you who are online. I just want to make a few quick comments. First, I've got to acknowledge all of the many partners on this project. Nashville Civic Design Center, 50 Forward for hosting us over and over again. The Memorial Foundation, the Nashville Parks Foundation. This has been an incredible collaboration. And I want to just make a few comments about how this park fits into our overall countywide strategy on parks. Most of what we do, all of what we do does or should be informed by Plan to Play, which is the countywide Parks and Greenways Master Plan. And I think it, something that is really exciting and inspirational about this project is that it really ticks off a lot of strategic objectives. This particular project, you're in an area, Madison is underserved with parks. So there are 6,000 people within walking distance of this new park. And then from driving distance, of course, you've got the whole, larger region of people who will be served by this site. It is a priority of the Parks Department to build new parks in areas that are currently unserved or underserved. Another thing that is really unique about this project is the synergies that it's going to have with all of the surrounding uses, the civic uses like the library, the community uses like 50 Forward and the Roots Barn, all of the additional residential that's about to happen to the south. That is going to be completely unique in Nashville right now, and it's going to make for a very active, very vibrant park space. And all of these institutions will feed off of each other to really create a new, almost like a town square for Madison. So we're really excited about that. And it's a model that we hope can be repeated over and over again in other parts of the county. Nancy made a few comments about the budget on this. And sometimes I have to say things to manage expectations a little bit. Construction of this project is not currently funded. We're very optimistic about it. It is not unusual at all for a project to be funded in phases like this. So we appreciate the leadership that Councilmember VanReece and others have illustrated on this, and the vision from the very beginning on this that really Nancy and the early work from the Civic Design Center and others have poured into this project. So we're super excited about it. And I think that those are the items I wanted to cover. So thank you.
Thanks, Tim. Excellent. So really quickly, first of all, I should introduce myself. I'm Eric Hoke, the design director at the Civic Design Center. Our mission is to advocate for civic design visions and actionable change in communities to improve quality of life for all. And so we've been doing that in Nashville for 20 years now. And so we have a pretty good backlog of work. And so this is a publication we put out that focused on transportation in Middle Tennessee. But there was a section in there that focused on transit-oriented development in Madison, and specifically around the place where we're pretty much standing. This was a vision from that publication. And you can see up to the this area right here, it started to outline this idea around a park in kind of the central area around Madison. And then later in 2012, this was a technical assistance panel that was like an 8-week intensive that focused on Madison. And it also outlined some development and a park in this very location. So forgive my grainy images. I pulled this from the planning website, but I thought it was interesting. They literally highlighted a park in this exact location. So that was pretty exciting to discover that. I wasn't a part of that process, but it was fun to read about it. And then later in 2016, the vision, another publication the Civic Design Center put out was called Shaping the Healthy Community, the Nashville Plan, which presented a bunch of different community types, but Madison being one of them, and looked at health interventions in our built environment. And so you can see the park again is outlined in this kind of stepped vision, and it also looked at parts of Gallatin and how to connect to it. Later in 2016, the Civic Design Center has a youth engagement program called Design Your Neighborhood. And the students who were involved with it at the time, we did a summer camp with them that were actually out here getting community engagement feedback from community members, and invited them out to have play and We did a few different engagement sessions, and then they actually created visions for the future park space. So they've been designing and some really great visions from a variety of age groups up to high school. And then based on those designs, another publication came out that the Civic Design Center worked on called Connecting the Dots, which actually took those student concepts and then advanced it a bit further. So a lot of work has been done. I have to mention the Madison strategic plan also that the Chamber of Commerce and Randall Gross put together. But it also presented some pretty big, robust visions for downtown Madison. And the park was kind of included. You can see it in that bottom vision there. And the new development just to the south of where we are up top. So let's go to this that kind of takes us to now. That's a bit of the Civic Design Center history and other history in regards to planning around this park space. Here we are, we're this building right here. If you need to orient yourself. But before we hop into the kind of engagement portion, yeah, big shout out to the Memorial and the Parks Foundation for their financial support to get us to this schematic design phase. Also, the project team, it's been awesome to work with you all on this. Parks, Nancy and HDLA have been really great team to work with on this whole process. And then also, we've had tons of different advisors on this project, from our advisory partners who have come in for special sessions to weigh in on the design, and then also our government partners as well. Big thanks to all of you for helping us with that. So the space we're talking about, there's Cedar Hill Park is about 2 miles away, a little over 2 miles away, I think. And then we have Madison Park. So then this is kind of that 1 mile radius is the park deficit we're discussing here, and also central point to Madison. And then within this kind of periphery, this is a 15-minute walk shed from the park space itself. There's about 6,000 residents that live in this area that will be able to walk within a 15-minute walk of the site. We've had a pretty big series of community meetings. This has been over the last 8 months. We've had probably 4 big sessions and then many other kind of one-off smaller stakeholder groups. The big things that we heard, this is kind of our top 10 list from all of those sessions. Art was something that a large majority of people who attended these sessions discussed with us. Safety, fitness, and then public or plantings and local varieties of plants and things like that. There are the basketball courts that used to be on the site. I think it was an old school site. That was something that a lot of people were really adamant about seeing in the future park. The flexibility of the future space, that it was, could accommodate some pop-up events, maybe neighbor to neighbor festival, lots of the roots, thinking about all those upcoming types of uses. And then another thing was that this would be a very collaborative space. It kind of has, there's all these great kind of peripheral neighbors to the space, very close. And so this is kind of a diagram that illustrates how this is kind of seen as this collaborative, cohesive space. And then the development around the site has just been really exciting to watch. Just the road itself, you can look outside and see it, but the roots is starting to take physical shape as well. And then we know that the Madison Station development just to the south and the update to the mall there is really going to change the feeling of this space. A lot of the things we heard about were parking and access to the space. There's a good amount of parking in the kind of surrounding area around the park. The park will also have a parking lot for itself, and there's between the library and 50 Forward has 266 spots just on site. So thinking about how we can collaborate for big events and use shared resources. We also have one of the most used bus stop in Davidson County is actually this one right here in front of the library. And so, there is access, pretty good access to our site here. There's a lot more about the community engagement, and I encourage you to go to the Civic Design Center website, civicdesigncenter.org, to kind of dive into those reports and things like that. And I'm sorry, Richie, I didn't know, I was expecting Robert, so sorry I have your, Yeah, but I would, at this point, I want to kind of dive into the design actually. And so I'm going to invite Richie Jones, not Robert Waits, here up to the mic.
Well, I'm thrilled to actually be able to be here. I didn't know if I was going to be able to make it. And I was, so this is where I wanted to be. So we had Robert to fill in for us. So this is just such a wonderful opportunity from a design standpoint. And, you know, we have the opportunity to work on a lot of parks around the city and the region and really the Southeast. And the first thing we always look at is what is the context, sort of what's going to activate this space, what's really going to drive use here. And so it's so cool to see that ULI, sketch, because if you were to pick a place for a park, it would be right here because you've got all these great community uses and both private and public right here. And so more so than anything we can do on the design side, that's what makes a park successful. And so we're really here just to facilitate those users and those activities. So we'll get right into it. We are landscape architects and we design parks. We're HDLA landscape architects. We've been in the city for about 35 years, since 1985. And like I said, we've had the opportunity to work on several parks like this. Our scope here was really to take all of the engagement information and figure out a way to organize it on the site that it would facilitate the most activity and the most success. And so that's what we're going to look at here over the next few slides. And so this is our site. You see, we have a pointer here, Eric. Oh, there we go. So this is where we are right now. This is the new beautiful Madison Station Blvd. This is the library, and this is going to be that new mixed-use development across the street. And we've got the restaurants below here. So I'm going to walk through the program of the site diagrammatically to sort of hopefully we can understand why things went in certain places based on these factors. The first thing we look at is major circulation. And so we've got the new boulevard with the roundabout sort of on two sides. We've got parking here. We're going to have lots of activity sort of almost 360 around the entire site, coming off the boulevard, coming up from Gallatin, coming from the library, coming from the Roots Barn 54. And so what does that mean? It really means the park doesn't really have a front or a back. It's sort of in the round, if you will. And so that really informed how we started to look at the park from design standpoint. So you'll see this feature here would be a large stage structure or shade structure. It could house concerts. It could be the central hub of activity for events, but it is very purposefully placed right in the middle of the park. You'd be able to see it sort of from all directions, and it's sort of your beacon that will draw you in. And then we've got activity on all four sides. So really primarily three sides, but we've got a large event lawn here. There's a little bit of grade change, as you'll see out there from the roundabout, which will hopefully have a large piece of public art. It drops off, pretty steadily about 2 or 3, 4 feet down to this space. So this would be sort of a grand play lawn or activity lawn, but it also have a little bit of slope to it. So in a concert, people could, really sit here and look back at the stage. So that's in that corner. We purposely put it, closest to 54 and closest to the new development. Here we have what's going to be, I think, a really fun and active playground from about ages 0 to 11. It'll be a poured in place colored surface. We'll look at some pictures of that in a second. It'll have a seat wall, lots of shade. We'll have some shade structures there. A really fun playground that will engage families. And we've set it off the road for safety. We'll have sort of a little wall here or a small wall as a barrier. And then just below the stage, we have what will be a multi-sport court. So we'll have basketball, pickleball, we'll have a sports wall. So it'll have, things like a tennis net drawn on it, a soccer net drawn on it, basketball goals at different heights. So it can engage, anyone from a toddler up to an adult. We also have some adult fitness here too. And we had some fun things in there, like a little 40-yard dash for people to race and things like that. And then we have a iconic play structure here, which is really large. I'll show you a picture of it. We're excited about it, which would be for older kids, sort of, 10 to about 16, 17. And then we've got this detention facility, which is already built, which we needed for the boulevard. And we heard in the engagement that people really wanted native plantings. They wanted pollinators, so that we would plant that as a meadow planting that would be cut back once or twice a year. So it would kind of have a wilder look to it, have some flowering perennials. It would have some native grasses, but it would attract some pollinators as well. And then one thing that's not shown on this plan, but we are looking at, is sort of some little spaces off of this detention facility that would be primarily for the library, where they could go do little outdoor reading sessions with children or even adults. So that's the plan. Circulation wise, we've got all these different paths. It's very fluid, and that's by design. We wanted this place to feel fun and exciting, and also invite a lot of movement. And so curves invite movement, and we've got a lot of curves here. So it's sort of modern in its form, almost abstract or organic, and there's just lots of different ways to get in and around this park, which we felt was critical because it is a 360 park. And then from an exercise and sort of play standpoint, we thought, how cool would it be to sort of design a track within the circulation? So this could be the toddler track. You come out with your scooter or your balance bike. This could be the adult track. This could be the bigger track. It's not very big from a length standpoint, but it's a lot of fun. And we, through design, through paint or paving patterns, we can design, your fitness track next to your toddler track. So there's sort of some hierarchy there as far as how you use it. And then we always like to look at how a space will function in an event. So parks have lots of different lives. They need to function on a Tuesday at 11:30 for those people coming, and that needs to function on festival day where you got food trucks and tents. So we have to look at it in lots of different ways. So this is maybe a festival day. So you've got, the ability to put 10 by 10 tents in this lawn. Each little pink dot is a person. This stage could really look anywhere, but primarily it would kind of face out to the lawn. You can have food trucks along the boulevard. You also could pull food trucks here. This pathway here is especially wide so that we could service the stage. If you needed to bring rigging or something like that in, you could do that, or you could put food trucks along here. So that's what it looks like in an event. I want to talk about what the character of the park would be now. So we wanted it to be fun, energetic, point to the future, and almost be playful. And so it's a park. It should be fun, right? So we want to look at sort of the very best that's happening right now out in the design world. So you can see here is a sports court that's got lots of different play elements and sports elements, but it looks almost like a piece of art. And so you do that through asphalt and paint and poured in place surfaces. Same thing here. This really cool use of these lines and this sort of iconic play element. Where we have some grade, we may be building some amphitheaters. Flexible seating is key to success of public spaces. Play mounds, children love play mounds. They love to run up and down. So we have some of those in there as well. I mentioned that iconic play climbing structure that's rather large for older kids. That's what we're proposing here. This is in a park in San Francisco. This is an off-the-shelf item. I think it's in 2 or 3 places in the country right now. It's a really cool structure. Ever since I've seen it, I wanted to play on it. So I'm trying to get it on one of the parks we work on. But you can swing on it, you can play on it, and I'm sure I'd probably kill myself if I actually got on it. But it is safe, and all this area, this will be poured in place, soft surface that meets all the requirements. But it's just really cool element.
Make it bigger for adults like me.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, me too. Yeah. So we talked about using paint and design, on the ground. And so I love this picture. This is just an asphalt blacktop, but just through paint, you've created this like wonderful, imagination world for kids. So they can race, they can do, that kid is doing something with these lines. I mean, it's just awesome. And it's just through design. There's nothing really special about it. It's just how you activated. So we're thinking about that in these play areas. This is a sports court, same thing, fun paint. Love this picture. This is probably most similar to what we're talking about. So, you know, you got a little track, you've got basketball, pickleball, you've got these walls back here that have all the different things painted on them. So really fun ways to activate. Same thing here. And then this is the idea of like a little course for kids. Again, using graphics as a way to do that. And then finally, just looking at some other examples, bright color, the sports courts, you know, this is just an interesting sort of design motif. And then we'll show you a picture of what the shade structure actually will look like. But we wanted something light and tall that would really sort of draw you into it, that felt almost airy in a way. So it really invited you to walk through it and around it. And so that's similar to what we're proposing here. So we were able to model this three-dimensionally. I didn't want to start with this, although this is the most exciting picture, I think. But this is sort of looking down. If you were looking at if you were to take a balloon ride above the library, this would be the view you would get of the park. So to orient you, this is the roundabout. There will be a piece of art here. This is that lawn. This is that sort of light, airy shade structure. The 0 to 12 sort of playground. You see we have these play mounds with slides, lots of trees for shade. And then that sports court. And then you can see how that track would sort of go around. A couple things to point out, like we do have those restaurants back here. We might want a little screening. So we thought this was a great opportunity for a big mural wall with local artists or signage back there as a backdrop. A few things about the trees. We want to create a safe space that can be seen at all times, that when we're in the park, you can see everywhere. And so we're proposing taller trees that can be limbed up, not a lot of mid to medium planting. So you don't want anything that gets really above like 2-3 feet, because if you're a parent or whatever, you want to be able to see your kids sort of at all times. And it's just a safe thing to do within parks. So even though it looks very, very lush, and it will be from that sightline standpoint, you'll be able to see through it. So then you can also see the little outdoor nooks, reading nooks, hovering over that detention area. So we really feel like we've turned sort of a piece of maybe what you would call mundane infrastructure into a real asset for the park. And then this is obviously the boulevard. You'll have a development over here. This is sort of, if you were to come down on that balloon and look eye level in the park and sort of in the park, this would be what your view would be from the lawn. You can see sort of the size of that structure. It was really important that that structure serve an everyday purpose of shade, but also be able to serve that purpose in an event, as far as housing a concert or something like that. So this would have to have all kinds of electric hookups and things like that. We try to hide those wherever we can. But again, you see the playground in the back, see that structure in the back right there. That would be the adult fitness area, sports court, toddler playground, or 0 to 12 playground, and then the grand lawn. And that is it. We're happy to answer questions. Okay, yeah, for sure. Yeah, we're happy to take any questions, comments, for any of us that spoke. Yes.
Is the entire facility handicap accessible
Yes, it will be.
from parking all the way to?
Yes. Yeah, it will be. Yeah. So that parking, I should mention, that's a good question. We didn't really focus on that. That parking is an asset that's already there. And it's a pretty big space. We were able to accommodate all of our program within that space. So we're not really altering that parking. We've got some funds in there to sort of spruce it up, if you will, but that parking really serves its purpose, and it is ADA accessible all the way through. So yeah.
We're trying to be a lot more intentional about creating inclusive playgrounds. So every playground we build baseline has to be ADA, but that's a little different than creating a space that is truly engaging for kids at a lot of different ability levels. So as we get to the level of design where we're actually picking out individual pieces of equipment, it's going to be important for us to include some of those components that are particularly fun for
I mean, the world of playground design has come so far in the last decade that there's so many great things that are accessible, universally accessible, that you don't even think about. They just, look the same. So, yeah. Yes.
You mentioned a lot of different sports for that area.
Uh-huh.
Is it gonna be large enough for multiple people to be playing multiple sports at the same time? Or if someone's playing basketball, is there room for someone to be playing football as well? Is it first come, first serve?
It actually is large enough for you to have, there is a capacity to it, but let me go back to the plan. It's a little bit hard to see here, but that's a basketball court unto itself. That's a pickleball court unto itself. So, and even within that, this is conceptual, so we could shift things around because you gotta,
It's
you gotta,
hard to tell, like,
yeah.
From that scale wise, if it is all of those things at once, or if it was separate areas.
It's separate.
Okay.
So, and to be specific, the separate areas are basketball, pickleball, this play element, this little track element, and a little adult fitness station. And all those things could be going on at the same time. It would be crowded, but I think that's a good thing. Yes.
I just wanted to comment question. It's just absolutely gorgeous.
Thank
you. It's very functional. The only thing is in the whole project is phenomenal. Really working hard. All our plans. But my question is, the only thing that has kind of surprised me is the size of attention.
Yeah.
You kind of glossed over it in your presentation. I know we can't plant any trees or anything like that. What are we gonna do to kind of keep the eye off the retention area?
Yeah.
It is so long.
That's a good question, and it's something we've inherited from the road project. So, yeah, I'm sorry. So the question is, the retention area is rather large, and we've what do we do to sort of make sure that that's, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but make sure that we're accounting for that size and make sure that it fits within the rest of the park, and it's not an element that's an eyesore. Is that fair to say? Yeah. So that detention is a part of the boulevard. And I think Councilmember VanReece or Eric may be able to speak more specifically to the requirements of that. At some point, that area may actually be able to go away if we do some other improvements in the area, but right now we're sort of left with it. So what we'd like to do to address that is, sorry, let Nancy speak. What I'd like to, what we'd like to do to address that is, I think Councilmember VanReece is going to come up. And speak. Yeah, that's great. Thank you. No, I'm not struggling. I just didn't want to interrupt what you were
No, I
saying.
know.
So.
Yeah, go back. And it's good for those online to know too, that the question was from Representative Bill Beck. Thank you so much for coming. And as it presents itself, as it actually is a TDOT issue. The reason for the retention area being so large is because of the requirement for a 100-year flood situation. There are developments in the area that are going to be correcting that, right? So there's going to be so much correction in regard to all of the asphalt that you see at the mall right now that's going to be corrected. And then also, as we move forward in requests from TDOT to correct any stormwater problems along Gallatin Pike, then those restrictions will loosen and will regain more public park space. So over time, as those things happen, it can be reevaluated and reprogrammed as it goes. Yes, sure.
I think what Richie and team have done is really exciting with the detention area, because like a lot of what we heard, people were really excited about native plantings and butterfly gardens and that type of stuff. And that's the type of programming that can occur in those areas. And you can kind of see like the lushness in this rendering and kind of the vision for that. So I think yes, it's a big portion of the park, but it's necessary for the road, but it could also be utilized in a positive way, I think.
Yeah, thank you. Councilmember. That was good background. I didn't want to misspeak as far as what the actual connections are to the larger area. So, and yeah, to Eric's point, I mean, we envision this to be a lushly planted sort of meadow garden. There is maintenance involved with that. And that's something that we need to engage neighbors on as far as how to maintain that over the long term. But we've done it successfully. We have to be very careful with the plants we choose and how we do it, but it will attract pollinators and it can be quite beautiful. Okay, cool.
So will there be water mist stations to stay cool during the hot summers?
We have not gotten that far as specifically what the site furniture would be. Tim may speak to how other parks deal with that. I mean, we will have water fountains and bottle filling stations and things like that. But as far as misting goes, we haven't really talked about that specifically. Tim, I don't want to put you on the spot, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think it could be worth consideration.
Okay. Yeah. So the answer was we would consider that. I do think it does get very hot and we're having a lot of play elements here. So we do need to factor that in for sure.
The other question is it adaptable and open for vehicles large enough? I think yes.
Yeah, and you can kind of see it here. The question was, can we get service vehicles in and out? And so those are things we'll work through the specifics, hopefully when this part gets to engineering or the construction drawing phase. But from a conceptual standpoint, we do have Madison Station Boulevard here, which is a great asset. It's very close to a lot of these pathways, so you could unload and load from there. This is a large walk that we have identified here. This whole thing actually is really wide. It's like 18 feet wide. So you could get service vehicles, even small trucks, as far as box trucks in there, box trucks. Yes.
This section, is the track, call it a track, is it designed for biking as well? Or do you foresee biking being permitted there? Is it just a walking fitness trail?
I think for the track itself, it's a little small for like if you were to get on a road bike or even a commuter bike to sort of use that for exercise. Now, we have designed the park circulation in a way that if you're coming, let's say from here and you want to get down to Gallatin, like you could easily cut through the park. But as far as this, what we're envisioning here, I don't really think bicycles, it's just a little too small for that. It's more for adult bikes. Now, kid balance bikes, small bikes, scooters, things like that for kids, for sure.
The new boulevard too has some pretty substantial biking infrastructure which would run along the edge of the park. There. So that concludes kind of our presentation portion. I just want to keep you a few more minutes longer to do a quick sort of feedback part of this. So I'm going to ask you to see if I can get if you want to connect to the Wi-Fi, you can. The Wi-Fi is 50 forward guests, and for those online, just hold tight while we get set up here. But okay, so if you want to participate in this, please, you can scan this or go to menti.com and then I can't read it from here. 3676. If you type in 36, oh yeah, there, thank you. My eyes aren't that good. If you type in the code, if you go to menti.com and then type in code 3676. 6116, or you can just scan this QR code if you're in the room with us. Then I'm going to ask you 3 questions just about kind of how we did on this, just to get some kind of general feelings and thoughts, and then yeah, then we'll we can, and then also if you want to go outside with us, I know it's cold, but if you want to kind of go out and just look at I mean, it's a construction site right now for the boulevard, but if you want to go out there and chat with us about it on site, we're welcome to take some folks out there if you're interested in that. So with that being said, how would you just kind of rate us overall on the process and how the concept looks at first kind of glance here? And I hope that people online are participating as well. So we'll see, maybe. All of this will be available. If you signed up through the website, we can send out the video if you want to review the slides or the content or anything like that. Cool, great. Glad so far, makes me happy. we're not too far off, I guess. Yeah, we're a little, that's right. There's still that 0.1. We can do better. So pressure's on, Richie. So is there something that you would like to see more of in the design? Maybe a feature that you thought was good but could have used some improvement? And this is kind of an open-ended answer, so we'll give you a minute or two on this. But yeah, just kind of feeling any general comments too around any of the features are welcome. Yeah.
More ways to distract the eye
From the detention area. Yeah, that, and I think that I am optimistic that we can make it a nice part of the program that's enjoyable too. I think those, if you saw in the rendering, there was kind of those overlook areas where, you know, you could imagine like a nice, you know, kind of lush area that you can enjoy nature more or less. So, but yes, we'll consider that. Let's see what people are. Bike racks. Yes, there was some in the design, and maybe we should highlight that too. Yeah, the art, we didn't want to define the art too much because, you know, the Arts Commission and others will have to weigh in on what that all looks like. So that is to be determined. Yeah, turn field overlook vision. Cool. Yeah, does anyone want to discuss the return field overlook vision? Is that from, it might be someone online too. I don't want to put anyone on the spot if you don't want to, but looking maybe for some clarity on that comment. Yeah, lighting, cool, nice. Great. I think if you're on your phone, you're still typing, I'm going to advance the slide, but I'm pretty sure you can still comment. So feel free to keep populating those. And then do you have additional comments that maybe something you didn't see that you really wanted to see, or yeah, other thoughts that might not have been included? Are there any comments from the internet? Okay. Well, we'll leave these questions open if you're typing away or want to participate later, or if you want to follow up with us, you know, you can go to the Civic Design Center website and weigh in more depth on any of this. And we will relay comments, obviously, to Richie and Parks and team. And so, yeah, I guess here's a, yeah, sure.
So this feedback today is really important, and everything that we hear from you today will be part of the record as we proceed through the design process. In addition to the Design Center website, we'll have a link to all of this on the Parks Department website. And what has been done at this point is the schematic design level. Always when there are those incredible pictures that look like the real deal, it looks like everything has been designed yet, and it hasn't really. So with the additional funding, we will go through a design development phase, and we will come back to the community at that time. And that's when we can start to dig into some of these finer grained details that people mentioned, like specifics of how we deal with the stormwater detention area. I saw bike fix-it statement, the mister, other, the types of playground equipment that we might select, things like that. So as we move forward there, we are going to come back to the community and keep you guys engaged as things move forward, and continue to make sure that it reflects the community's concerns. Yeah, one of the great assets on this site is we have the library and some other civic institutions. So unlike a lot of other parks where we have to resort to porta-johns, we've got some some nicer quality facilities in place. Thank you.
So it's always an important question. And there are places for special events to put them in the right places as well. I want to thank everybody so much for coming, and I'm going to leave with a call to action. As I mentioned at the beginning of the meeting, am not in the mood for this just to keep going as a great idea that Madison someday will do. This can be imminent. The mayor needs to hear from this community that they find this to be a priority. If we're really tight on the timeline, if we get a spring spending plan and this is in it, then we can proceed as Tim Nash has described, so that by the time in the autumn that we are cutting the ribbon on the rest of the road, the park can be actually underway, so that we're not losing any momentum. Without that, it's another 12, 18 months will go by like that. So please pay attention, know that your voice is extremely important in this. We're going to be, I think the Civic Design Center is on all the socials, going to be providing an easy way to contact the mayor's office. They have been notified. The mayor@nashville.gov. I want the park at Madison Station Boulevard is really all you need to say with your address. That would be extremely helpful as I and the rest of your Madisonian council members continue to ask for this request. The mayor's office is aware of this presentation. They'll be reviewing this presentation as well. So know that your voices are being heard imminently as well. So with that, I want to thank my good friends at LDG have provided a king cake. And so for those that are present, you can have a slice on your way out. And if there's anything else today. All right. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you again, 54, for being such a beautiful host. Thanks.